Good afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year. Hard to believe it is 2026. My name is Charlotte Scheid, and I'm one of the Giant Company dietitians. I hope everybody's having a wonderful start to the new year, and thank you for joining me here for today's class. We have our Meal Solution Mondays class with a focus on flyer to fork. So for those of you who are new, our flyer to fork classes, what they are is we look through, we'll be discussing a little bit about the weekly ad, but what we do as a dietitian, we look through the weekly ad as a dietitian and kind of pick out products to create a recipe to bring affordability to your table and, of course, a delicious, nutritious meal. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So our flyer to fork class, so again, with a focus on the weekly ad and trying to create a meal with this week's ad, we're going to discuss how to find the weekly ad, finding a recipe with Savory, the Savory Recipe Center. It's a wonderful website if you want to look for new recipes. So we'll be discussing a little bit about that on how to find a recipe in there. And then we're going to bring it to life with different products that we are in the weekly ad, and then with a recipe on Savory. So our featured recipe for today is going to be a Greek orzo chicken salad, which I always love a good salad, which I think is pretty appropriate for this time of year with a fresh start to the new year. Maybe if you're focused on weight management or just wanting to be, more have better nutrition in your diet. So we're going to be doing a Greek orzo chicken salad. So before we get started with discussing the weekly ad, I want to hear from all of you if you have seen this week's ad. So again, question is, have you seen this week's ad? And for those of you who have already in the past attended these classes, I'm sure you're maybe already in a routine of looking at the weekly ad. All right, so I'll give everybody a couple seconds to answer that. All right, so let me go ahead and end the poll. I'll share the results. So it looks like a lot of you have already seen the weekly ads. You're probably already thinking about maybe different products. Have you already gone out to the store and even purchased the products, but you already have kind of an idea of what is in there. And for those of you who have not looked at the ad, we'll be discussing different ways on how you can view it. All right, so thanks everybody for answering that question. All right, so let's keep moving. All right, so these are some different areas on how you can find the weekly ads. So the first being in your mailbox. I know for myself, we have a community local newspaper that the weekly ad is in, so it can be in your mailbox. You can, of course, find it in our stores. Normally when you walk in the doors, it's kind of in a little roundabout right there and a paper copy, so you can find it in our stores, which is pretty easy, especially if you're already in the grocery store, a lot. You can find it on our website, which is pretty easy. If you have a device or a computer, of course, looking on our website is very easy to look at the weekly ad. And if you're really familiar with our app, you can also find it on there as well. I will say for me, the app, because I'm always doing, giant direct pickup orders and whatnot, the app is always a really easy way to find the weekly ad to see what great stuff is in there. So this is the website on how you would find the weekly ad. So you can see right here in the upper left-hand corners, you see categories, and you kind of scroll across to the right. You just click on the weekly ad, and you can pull it up in a PDF form, print copy, kind of like this, the same way you would see it in a paper copy in the store. So you can view it on our website. So you can go there, or of course on the app. So if you already have downloaded the app, you would just pull it up, and you can see at the very bottom, I have a little arrow right here where you just click on save, and then you can also view it in the print form or grid view. So a lot of different options for how to view the weekly ad, whether that is in your mailbox, in store, on our website, or the app. So a lot of great ways to view it, and of course a lot of great stuff in the weekly ad as well. So for those of you who have not looked at it, definitely look at it this week. Really good stuff for the new year. All right, so I don't know if anybody, or I'm sure a lot of you have been on Savory Recipe Center website, but they just have so many different types of recipes. I especially think for the new year, especially when we are in a rut and maybe eating the same things and we're kind of getting bored of what we're eating, this can be great recipe inspiration for different meals, different cuisines. You can see here, so actually, so this left. So what I'm trying to say is a different filter. So you can filter it to kind of pull up different recipes. So you can put in ingredients that you like, ingredients that you don't like, and then at the bottom you can do some advanced filters, whether that be different, time of day, guiding stores, ready in like 15 minutes, 30 minutes, different ways to search for recipes. So you can see here, so one of the products that are in the weekly ad was Nature's Promise chicken, different varieties of the chicken. So that's the product that I wanted to choose and kind of go from there. And then I was thinking, I really like kind of Greek inspired recipes, and I was kind of in the mood for a salad. So I typed in Greek chicken salad, and you can see some recipes that pulled up. So we are going to do the Greek orzo salad with chicken, which I think, of course, is appropriate for this time of year, start to the new year, and it's just fresh and delicious with all the different flavors in it. So this is the recipe again, off of our savory recipe centered website. So these are our ingredients. Gets 2 guiding stars. So for those of you who do not know what Guiding Stars is a nutritional navigation program that will either be on recipes or products in stores. So just kind of giving you an idea of maybe what products or recipes have a lot more nutritional benefits, so more vitamins, minerals, healthy fats, and less of the stuff that we don't want, like saturated fats and those types of things. So you can see for this recipe, so I put to the right, it's a nice balanced meal, so it has orzo, which is a pasta grain, has a lot of vegetables in it, and then protein as well. But it's again balanced meal and fresh for the new year. So for one serving, has 3 grams of fiber and 29 grams of protein. The other thing with this being kind of a Greek Mediterranean style recipe, I also think you could add like chickpeas, which I think would be super delicious to add more protein and fiber if you wanted to. So for this one, so what I did before class, so this recipe calls for half of a 16-ounce package of orzo, which is a pasta, kind of like almost like a diamond shaped kind of pasta. So I already cooked that just for about 5 minutes or so. You don't want to overcook it because it gets kind of mushy. So I did already do that, and I have it on my counter. So that's already pre-cooked. And one thing in the recipe, which we'll go over in the next slide with the different directions. So the boiling water that was in the orzo, you kind of pour it over the baby spinach. So the baby spinach kind of, gets a little wilted or cooked down a little bit. But if you don't want to do that too, you probably, don't necessarily have to. But the recipe calls for that, so that's what I did. And I also cut up our vegetables and some other things. But let's actually go to the next slide. We can look at the directions. So for our Greek orzo chicken salad, so again, I already did the orzo and then drained the pasta over the spinach to kind of get it a little bit wilted. But again, I don't necessarily think you would have to do that step if you didn't want to. You wanted to be even, or if you just, wanted to skip that step. I also cut up our vegetables. So we have some cucumber, red bell pepper, and grape tomatoes. So grape tomatoes is another one that is in the weekly ad for this week, as well as the spinach. And then we're going to mix together our dressing. So so red wine vinegar, lemon juice, oregano, garlic powder, which whenever I think of Greek Mediterranean with a lot of different recipes that are kind of Mediterranean, those are the flavors I think of. So it'll be super delicious. And you can season with a little bit of salt and pepper. So we're going to be adding that to our bowl. Of course, adding orzo, the spinach, and all our other different ingredients. And also a great flavor that we're going to be adding into is dill. So looking for something a little bit different. This is a wonderful meal, especially for lunch. You could even have leftovers, maybe for a day or so. And again, recipe ingredients, a weekly ad for this week. So when you look at the weekly ad, you will see a couple of different products, but one is what is on a bonus buy. So Nature's Promise greenhouse grown, Dole or brand salad blender kit, or brand grape tomatoes. So the salads being the 4 12-ounce size bags. So our salad basic spinach and then grape tomatoes, and then Nature's Promise fresh chicken, select varieties. So this chicken breast. So the other thing that I did also for class, I already cooked the chicken, shredded it, and kind of chopped it up. So for this recipe calls for 2 cups. If you want to be even quicker with this recipe, what we have in store, which is, I know that I use maybe on a weekly basis, but at least a couple times a month, is our already pre-shredded rotisserie chicken, which you can get in the deli area, kind of where the hummus is, which makes, again, this meal even quicker if you wanted to. But if you're looking for something in the weekly ad, the Nature's Promise fresh chicken is another ingredient in the weekly ad. So, speaking again of the weekly ad, I wanted to mention our dietitian's pick, which is also in the weekly ad, which is Ocean Spray Zero Sugar. I've made a couple of mocktails with just the cranberry one, which is super delicious. But as you probably already know, Ocean Spray is known for their cranberries. They have over 700 family farmers and co-ops. Especially with a mocktail, a lot of them start with a base of cranberry juice. At the Giant Company or Giant Martin's, we carry four 64-ounce varieties. So we have the cranberry, which we'll be using today, because we are going to be creating a mocktail when our salad is done. So we have cranberry, mixed berry, strawberry mango, and tropical punch. And then we have two of the 10-ounce bottle varieties, strawberry mango, and then pink cranberry as well. So a lot of great, delicious options. It does not have any added sugar, and it's sweetened with stevia. Only has 5 calories per serving, and then also an excellent source of vitamin C, which I know I always appreciate this time of year, trying to stay having to keep my immune system healthy. So that is our dietitian's pick, and we are going to be creating a mocktail with the Ocean Spray Zero Sugar Cranberry. And so when we do create that cranberry, we're going to be creating a cranberry lime mocktail. So we're going to be using again Ocean Spray Zero Cranberry juice. We're going to be using our brand lemon lime seltzer, which I always like our seltzers too because there's just a lot of different varieties to choose from. We also have a mixed berry one that I think would also be pretty delicious in the cranberry. And then I'm just going to be cutting up a couple lime wedges and maybe putting one in and then one on the side to make our drink look pretty. So that's going to be our cranberry lime mocktail. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with our bowl, our salad. Alrighty. One moment. Here we go. All right. So we are going to be, again, doing our Greek orzo salad with chicken. So I've already cooked my orzo. So you can see this is my orzo, and I did already cool it down a little bit. You can see that right here. So it's kind of like a diamond-shaped pasta. But when we're talking about, my plate, a balanced meal, the pasta will kind of be in that grain section. So I think grains are always a nice idea to, add to a salad to create that balance. So I did already cook my orzo pasta, so half of a 16-ounce box, and just for about 5 minutes or so, because it can get mushy. So I already have that. I have my 2 cups of chicken. So I used the Nature's Promise chicken, cooked it for 350 for about, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes or so. So shredded it and then cut it up. So I have that right here. And then, what was the other thing I talked about? Oh, and I cooked or chopped up my vegetables and dill and all that good stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is create my dressing in here. So we are going to do 1 tablespoon of red wine vinegar. So I always like a good red wine vinegar on just many different types of salad. So we're going to do 1 tablespoon red wine vinegar. We're also going to be putting in 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, which I already pre-squeezed. You don't necessarily have to do a fresh lemon. You can do the juice that's already squeezed for you that's in the bottle, but I just have my freshly squeezed lemon juice. I will say I think the fresh lemon is even stronger and tastes even a little bit better. We're going to do 1 teaspoon of our oregano leaves. So again, 1 teaspoon. Just pour this here. Dried oregano. And then we're going to be doing a half teaspoon of garlic powder. So I'm just using our brand oregano leaves and then our brand garlic powder. And do half of a teaspoon. All right, and then adding in our olive oil, which gives us those healthy fats that we want, especially for our heart and brain health. So we're going to measure out 1/4 cup. Right, that looks good. And then if you want, you can season with salt and pepper. So I'm just going to put in a little bit of, just have some pepper here, but you can do salt and pepper if you want. Do a little bit of pepper. And I'm just going to mix this a little bit before we put in our other ingredients. And just make sure I have, yes, to have all the stuff for the dressing. All right, so now what we're going to be putting in is pretty much all the other ingredients. So we're going to put in our spinach. So I mentioned before, I just poured the water from the orzo pasta just to get it wilted just a little bit. It doesn't have to be too dramatic at all. We're going to be putting in spinach. Putting in our orzo pasta. Some of it, when you cook it, it might get, because these are not kind of stuck together a little bit, you're just going to break it up a little bit. But again, I did cool this down. But orzo helps to get the grains that we want to create a balanced plate. So I'm just trying to break apart this kind of orzo and it's stuck together a little bit. Okay. We're also going to add in our 2 cups of chicken. So shredded the chicken and then chopped it up. But again, if you want a quicker option in our deli, we already have pre-cooked, rotisserie chicken and then shredded you can get, which makes it nice for a busy night. All right, we're also going to be adding in our grape tomatoes. So I already chopped those up. Now just a pint. So that again was in the weekly ad. We're also going to be already chopped up some red bell pepper, so just one. And then cucumber. So the recipe calls for 1 English cucumber. You can kind of dice it up, so I can do whatever size that you want. So add this in. All right, and then Kalamata olives. So some people like olives, some people don't. You can probably you don't have to put the olives in, but I always like them because I remind me of like Mediterranean and give some nice and some nice flavor. So that was 1/4 of a cup of those olives. And let me just make sure I have, so we need to do also 1/4 cup of feta cheese. This is our feta cheese that's crumbled. So let's do 1/4 of a cup. Then we're going to mix it a little bit and then we're going to add our dill, which I got fresh dill from our produce department. It smells so good. Um, it smells really good. All right, let me break apart this feta a little bit and I'll measure out 1/4 of a cup. And if you really like feta, you could probably do even a little bit more. All right. And add this in. And even when you portion it out into your bowls, you can probably even add a little bit of feta and some dill on top. All right, so let me go ahead and just mix this up a little bit just to make sure the dressing kind of gets on everything. Actually, I'm going to use my tongs. So again, one other thing that you could do with this recipe is add those chickpeas or any type of bean that you want for some extra protein and fiber. So this recipe per serving already has about 29 grams of protein and 3 grams of fiber. So those chickpeas would just add even more, even more of that to help you feel fuller longer. And especially if you in the new year are doing any type of weight management, it's always a nice meal. All right, so I think that this dressing is getting on everything. So I'm going to add just our fresh dill. So this recipe calls for 2 tablespoons. So you can see right here. Smells so good. And a nice touch. And again, once you put this in the bowl, you can again put a little bit of feta and then dill on top if you wanted to. So let's kind of move this around, make sure the dill gets everywhere. All right, so I do have a bowl over here, so I'm just going to portion out 1 bowl or 1 serving. So this is our Greek orzo salad. The chicken has some nice color to it with those grape tomatoes. So you can see super easy to make. And again, you can always put it in the in the refrigerator. Probably would last, I would say, about a day or two. I don't know if it would last all week, but definitely kind of a leftover option for the next day. So let me go ahead and set this aside and we'll make our Ocean Spray Zero Sugar cranberry lime mocktail. So let me go ahead and set this to the side. Trying to get some feta cheese off. So let me bring over our brand lemon lime seltzer and then Ocean Spray. I'm going to be cutting up a lime. Okay, should bring this over. So I just have, oops, just a glass right here. So all I'm going to do is maybe like, probably just do like half and half of each. So we'll do our Ocean Spray cranberry, zero cranberry. We'll do some lemon lime. And again, I think with the seltzer, you could also do maybe like a berry. You could even do orange would be great. And you could put like an orange wedge. All right. Then if you can also, if you want to find, I really couldn't find fresh cranberries in store, but if you could find fresh cranberries, frozen cranberries, you could always um, add um, add that in. You can always add, ice if you want to. So I'm just going to cut up my lime. And I did already pre-wash the outside of this. So you can just put maybe like a lime or two in it. You just put a lime right on the outside. Just like that. So pretty easy mocktail. Let me give it a taste. Really, really good. Looking for a good mocktail recipe, definitely do the Ocean Spray Zero cranberry juice, some lemon lime seltzer. You can even put lemons in here, but the lime is super delicious. So one way to use that Ocean Spray Zero Ocean Spray Zero juice, but that is very, very good. So highly recommend. So you can see here we have our Greek orzo salad with chicken and then a nice mocktail to go with it to kind of celebrate the start to the new year. All right, I'm going to share my screen again. So I just want to highlight some upcoming classes that we have. So tomorrow we're going to be doing a fresh finds class with Jenna. She's with a focus on power sips. So she's going to be focusing on coffee, which I will say I love coffee. Then on Wednesday, I'm going to be focused or talking about the blue zones. So it's going to be a blue zones 101 class, it's a super interesting topic. Thursday, behind the brand with Jenna on Ocean Spray Zero Sugar, and then no class on Friday. So a lot of great stuff, up and coming stuff on classes to look forward to this week. So with that, I'm going to stop recording. All right. So thank you. Take care.